Joshua Báez just had the best debut in MLB history, and I'm not even exaggerating here. The Cardinals called this dude up yesterday, put him in the lineup against the Cubs at Wrigley Field, and in his very first major league at-bat, on the very first pitch, he hit a home run. Then he came back up for his second at-bat and hit another home run. Then he came back up for his third at-bat, and because apparently 2 wasn't enough, he hit another home run. 3 at-bats, 3 home runs, and that officially makes Joshua Báez the first player in MLB history to hit a home run in each of his first 3 career at-bats. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, this is just ridiculous. We've obviously never seen a player do this before. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I knew nothing about Joshua Báez. I did not even know he was making his debut today. And now the whole entire MLB has just seen him do one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Especially, walking into Wrigley Field and doing that. The funniest part is really, his first major league at bat might be the most ridiculous one of the 3. The first pitch of his major league career from Cubs starter Matthew Boyd, it was a 93 mile per hour fastball, and he just destroyed it. 449 feet, 450 feet, 108 miles per hour off the bat. The first pitch you've seen in the major leagues, and you send it 450 feet to dead center. I mean, that's just like a crazy way to introduce yourself. I don't know. You'd think you'd just kind of take the first pitch and see what it's like for your first MLB at bat. But man, if you're the Cardinals, you're probably sitting here thinking, we probably should have called this guy up a little bit earlier. Báez comes up again in the 4th inning. This time it's a 3-2 count. Boyd throws him a changeup, and Báez gets all of it again. 382 feet into the left field seats. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs. At that point, you're obviously starting to think, okay, this is getting pretty ridiculous. But then the 6th inning comes around, and this is where he officially makes history. Boyd throws him an 83 mile per hour slider. Báez gets the barrel to it and sends it 368 feet. He hits a home run to every part of the field. Home run number 3, 3 consecutive major league at-bats, 3 home runs. And now you've got a guy who has literally done something that no player in the history of Major League Baseball has ever done before. That's the kind of thing, like, as a baseball fan, you almost don't even know what to say, because we've seen guys have incredible debuts. We've seen players hit 2 home runs in the first game. We've seen players, get 4 hit games. We've seen guys come up and, immediately look like stars. But 3 home runs in your first career at bats, nobody has ever done that in the history of the sport. And now Joshua Báez has. And I think what makes this even more fun is that this isn't like some completely random prospect who came out of nowhere and happened to get hot for one afternoon. The Cardinals actually had a pretty good reason to believe this guy could hit. Báez came into the season as the Cardinals' number 3 prospect and number 59 overall prospect in the MLB pipeline. And, he was crushing AAA pitching. And, I'll be honest, I really had no idea who he was leading up into this. But after looking at all the numbers, it makes sense. He had 34 home runs, drove in 90 runs while posting a 900 OPS. His 34 home runs led all of AAA. So the power wasn't really a secret. The Cardinals knew this guy could hit a baseball really, really far. The question was whether he could do it consistently enough against major league pitching. And obviously we have to be careful here because we're talking about 4 at-bats, it's 4. We can't watch this guy and suddenly decide Joshua Báez is going to hit 50, 60 home runs every year. That would be insane. He's going to strike out. He's going to have over 4 games. He's going to go through stretches where pitchers figure out how they want to attack him, even though it looked like pretty impossible today, if I'm being honest. And actually, looking into it, that was one of the bigger questions surrounding him coming into the season. The strikeouts had been a pretty big concern throughout his minor league career, and that's probably going to be the bigger adjustment he has to make now that he's facing major league pitching. But there's also something really interesting about what the Cardinals said about him before his promotion. They weren't just talking about him as some giant power hitter who goes up there trying to hit every ball 500 feet. Their player development staff had actually been working with him on becoming a more complete hitter and getting more consistent with his approach. The Cardinals basically believe he's a real hitter underneath all that power, and that's what makes this debut so interesting. Because if you could actually put that together, if the approach continues to improve while the power stays the same, then you're talking about a player with a pretty ridiculous ceiling. And we've already seen some of that development in the minors. Last year, he hit 20 home runs and stole 54 bases between high A and double A. So, it's not like we're talking about a guy whose only tool is power, even though that's what most people are going to think after seeing his debut today. There's a lot of athleticism there. There's some speed. He's played all 3 outfield positions this season, and now he's getting an opportunity to show what he could do in the major leagues while the Cardinals are actually trying to make the postseason. That's another thing I think that makes the story so much better. The Cardinals aren't 30 games out of first place and, just calling up a prospect because they want to give him some September at bats. They came into Saturday 61-61. The game's actually still going on right now. I think they're going to end up getting the win, and they're only 3.5 games out of the final NL wildcard spot. They need offense. They need somebody to give this lineup a jolt. And then, they call up Joshua Báez, put him in the lineup against the Cubs at Wrigley Field, and he immediately gives them 3 home runs. You couldn't write this any better. Seriously, if you wrote this into a baseball movie, someone would probably tell you to tone it down because it's too unrealistic. And then there's the fact, that he did it at Wrigley Field. There's something about making your major league debut in a historic ballpark against a division rival that just makes this whole thing feel even better. You're 23 years old. You've spent the last few years grinding through the minor leagues. You finally get the call, and your first major league game is at Wrigley Field. Then the first pitch you see leaves the stadium, then another one, and then another one. And now, you're walking back to the dugout after your third home run, knowing that you just made MLB history. I'm curious if they even tell him that in the dugout or how they figure it out. But I just can't imagine what the conversation is like with your teammates, because these guys are obviously going crazy for him. And I think the fourth at bat he had is actually kind of funny too. After hitting 3 straight home runs, Báez comes up for his fourth at bat. I think everyone in the world, at least baseball fans, were tuning in or at least looking on their phone to see what was going on in this at bat. But he finally makes an out, lining out to left field. So he finished his debut 3 for 4 with 3 home runs and 5 RBIs. And honestly, I kind of like that he finally got out, because if he had somehow hit 4 home runs in his debut, I don't even know how we would approach this. I think they would be giving him the drug test in the dugout. I'm not even joking. I mean, at this point, you're just making up numbers. But 3 for 4 with 3 home runs and 5 RBIs is still absolutely ridiculous. And now comes the part where the expectations are going to get completely insane, because that's just what happens. The second a guy does something like this, people are going to start talking about Rookie of the Year, All-Star, 50 home runs, 40. I'm not even going to go there yet, but I think much more interesting thing is just watching what happens next, because now every pitcher in the sport knows who Joshua Báez is. There isn't going to be any more sneaking up on anybody. He's going to get different pitches. He's going to get pitched around maybe. He's going to see more breaking balls, and we're going to find out how quickly he can adjust. But that's the real test. But for one day, I think we need to overthink it. This was insane. You don't need a complicated statistical argument to explain why. Joshua Báez came into the major leagues, hit 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats, became the first player to ever do that, and finished his debut 3 for 4 with 5 RBIs. That's history. And honestly, I think that's why, I like the title, Joshua Báez just had the best debut in MLB history, because is that technically something we can prove? Not really, because best debut is obviously subjective. But if you're looking at the combination of the 3 home runs and the first 3 at-bats, becoming the first player to ever do something, you have to think about how long MLB has been around for. Being the first player to do something in a good way like this is pretty insane, because obviously there's been thousands of MLB players in history who have made their debut. But yeah, I don't know if you're putting together a list of the greatest MLB debuts and leaving this one out, then you're crazy. But yeah, this is just the beginning. The Cardinals didn't call him up to just have one awesome afternoon at Wrigley. But they really believe that he's someone that can help them win games, and now that's probably the best reason they have to keep him in the lineup after he does something like that. So I'm really curious what you guys think. Do you think Joshua Báez just had the greatest MLB debut we've ever seen? And more importantly, do you think this is the beginning of a legitimate star for the Cardinals? Or are we obviously getting way too excited after 4 at-bats? I mean, how could you not? But that will make me believe in anything after seeing that this afternoon. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow on TikTok if you aren't. It really helps support everything that I'm doing here. I'm doing daily uploads right now, so definitely check out the other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.